Great. So if you haven't had a chance to sign in already, then please go ahead and select the poll so we make sure that we know that you're here. It's the easiest way for us to do a quick check and make sure that we're spreading the word out to everyone. Everyone's getting the chance to participate. Today, I have Aaron Hacker with me too, so if you want to
Good afternoon. I'm glad to be on the call with you.
Great. And so today, what I was planning to do is we have an update to our case notes that was pushed out. I want to go over that with some more instructions. And then we have a minor updates to the progress page, and we'll talk about, making sure we're entering the information that needs to be entered that you can do now. I want to show you the dashboard that we have. It's on test, and so we just want to give you a heads up about that. So hopefully we'll be releasing that very soon. Hopefully testing goes extremely smooth, and we can get that right out right away. And then just want to talk to you a little bit about troubleshooting as people were having trouble accessing some of the customers' information. So I'm going to move this off to the side. And here's your last chance. Well, not really your last chance for the moment to go ahead and sign in with the polling question. And otherwise, I'm going to cover it up, and you can sign in after the webinar. Okay. So I wanted to go over some of the updates that we have. As far as the use, it's pretty minimal, but I think it's kind of a neat update because it'll add more functionality later on for you. This is case notes are what we call like a global tool. They're in LMI WorkNet, so they're used throughout LMI WorkNet. So a lot of times we'll make enhancements to parts of the LMI WorkNet that will impact multiple programs. And so we did add an update to our case notes that would also have some benefits for you as well. And it's adding the ability to classify your case notes. So what we wanted to do was to give you the ability to, identify if this case note is related to assessment, to referrals, that type of thing, two-way communication. And so the new requirement is you select a task up here, and if none of these fit, what your case note is referencing, then just select general. It's not a problem. You can choose general. And then we'll have information about adding or writing out your subject area, and then putting in a message. And again, you can just you send the messages or the case notes. You can save them as a case note and send a message. You can save it as a case note and as a message in an email, or you can just save it as a case note. And so as a reminder, anytime you add case notes, as we build out these pages and add more information, then you can also find a summary of all these case notes that are entered in on the case notes page. So no matter where you add the case notes, it'll provide a summary of that information on the case note page. And I wanted to go to the guide, the partner guide, and show you that there are some instructions that I put out there that are just strictly about case notes. For another project, we are going to have information available. We're going to work with a group to develop like a rubric for those different tasks to build out, what really makes a good case note. And so once we have that information put together, then we can share that with you, and we'll update the instructions with that information as well. So we'll look forward to getting your feedback on that as well. Okay, the next thing is we did make an update to the progress page. It's very, you probably wouldn't even notice that we've made the update, but it was just adding some additional, I don't know, notifications. I don't know if you really want to call it error messages, but notifications. So if you try to save information related to your eligibility and the text that, oh, you have this marked, you have homeless marked, but you never verified the homeless was marked. So if you have homeless marked, it's basically telling you that you also need to choose verified. And if you say I'm in foster care, but you don't have it verified, just know that you can uncheck the foster care, and it's okay. You can check and uncheck these items, and then check and uncheck the verified items. The whole gist of it is, though, is that if you have one of these selected, you need to have the other selected, so that we can really verify that that's the information that you need. You can see if I hit. If again, it's still going to tell me that it's not verified, but that's because I don't have some of these other items checked. So we did add a few more edit checks into the eligibility piece, so you can go ahead and complete the eligibility piece. If you don't have your contacts listed already, go ahead and add the contacts, and then go ahead and set their enrollment status. So those are the areas that you can do right now. I just looked over and I saw that Cynthia has a question. We are doing well in enrolling youth, 42 enrolled. Summer associate youth are starting their work-based learning. Okay. How do you record their hours in the system?
So, Natasha,
Okay.
I think she's asking about the worksite placement module, which we are working on. We know that that's something that's going to it's going to need to be incorporated in the system. We're trying to put together one that's going to capture what we need it to, and that's going to be intuitive. So it's in the works. It's just not there yet.
Right. Yep. And Cody's going to be working hard on that because the overall system it's pretty neat. Some of the updates that this program wanted to have, as far as being able to, track the number of hours that they've had subsidized employment and providing notifications and that sort of thing.
Yeah, one of the unique parts of CYEP is our subsidized employment. We've got some limits and guidelines on the subsidized employment, and we want to build those limits into the system, and not just for tracking the expenditure of funds, but also to make sure that that we are making the most of the subsidized time. So we've got some kind of some prompts to do things like the worksite evaluation and some things that will give you timely feedback about how the youth is doing in the worksite placement. So I think it's going to be good. It's just that one is taking some more work, and Natasha wanted to get some of these dashboards to you, and so it's one of the next priorities on our list.
Yep. And I'm going to make a note that I'm going to try to get with Cody and get an export, a template that if you wanted to start recording their hours, that whenever it came to the time when it was time to upload the information into the system, then that might be easier. I'll talk to him and see if we can do something like that.
And my hope is that as we capture things, when we put in, the placement's start date, and even if the start date has been a couple weeks ago or something like that, as long as the youth is still employed, or even if the youth's not employed and we put in an end date, that we can record those placements, and it's not as if we'll miss that data in the WorkNet and we can't ever go back and get it in there.
All right. Yeah, and like Cynthia said, yeah, we're keeping it in the Excel worksheet, and that's great for now. Yeah. And then I know Cynthia, I looked again at the NOCD test scores, and I'm gonna get with Cody and make him promise that he'll get those that figured out this week. So I do apologize for that, but I'm gonna get with him again and make sure that we get those, whatever is going on with that, resolved. So, okay, let's see here. What else do we have? Okay, some other things that that came. Oh well, wait a minute. Hold on. I'm going to go over the dashboard. This is the dashboard, and right now it is on test, and so we still have some areas that once it's out, once it's finished with testing, then I can go ahead and push it out. And, you'll have instructions and everything. But I just wanted to kind of give you a heads up as to what that was going to look like. Last time we looked at, paper documents, and this is a little bit more of, you can kind of get the look and feel of it. You'll be able to see your applications that have been started but haven't been submitted, because you have to actually, the person has to go in and actually submit that application. And so if you have, this is kind of like your warning area, like, these people need to have action. It needs to be submitted. Now, if it's been sitting out there longer than 5 days and it hasn't been submitted, now it kind of like ramps it up to the next level of more of an alert. So you'll receive a notification that the application has been out there and needs to be submitted because it's been, 5 days. And then this is the completed it. And then the gray means that, that's kind of where the person stopped, they're grayed out. They're not going to go any further in the dashboard. Now, the next section is, again, the eligibility review. So if you still need to go through and verify eligibility, please go ahead and do that. If it's been 5 days since the application date they submitted it, then it kind of escalates it to the next level. We just need to do something with it. We either need to, mark them as verified, or mark them as verified and eligible, or verified and not eligible. If they are verified as eligible, they'll go in the green. If they're verified as not eligible, we'll put them in the gray. The next area is the customer enrollment status. So if they don't have enrollment status set, then they'll be in the yellow. And if they stay in the yellow for more than 5 days, or they're not enrolled 5 days after the application, then they're escalated to the red, which is an alert, again, to let you know that they need to be updated and their information needs to be updated. We do have an area right here for the partner contact is not identified. We don't have any alerts with that, but we did want to make sure that it was on the dashboard because it is important to have the partner contact notified. We need to make sure we know who to send the information to for that particular customer. You'll be able to see a breakout of the in-school, out-of-school. You'll be able to see who's been marked as on a waiting list. And we don't have any alerts associated with this, so we're not saying that, 5 days, 6 months, whatever the case may be, that they're on the waiting list, but just, again, to let you know that you do have people on the waiting list, and if there's just no way they're going to be able to participate in the program, you would want to update their status to something like partner not willing to enroll, or, maybe, reach out to them and let them know and they decline to participate, whatever the case may be. We just don't want to leave them in that kind of limbo status. And then, of course, we have green for enrolled. So this will be your intake dashboard. As we move forward, we'll have more on, like completion status and worksite placement and those things. So you can expect more dashboards, but we wanted to really break it down and have it focused on those particular components within the within the spectrum, I guess, of where they could be in the system. Okay. So that's an overview of what the dashboard is going to be, or what it is. And for those of you that are new to our dashboards, we'll have info bubbles that tell you a little bit about, where the information is coming from, a description of who these people are that are in this area. And then, I'm not sure if I put this one in there. Yep, they did. And then the next steps pop up a modal window. So we tell you, if you're in the red and you need to do something, then, these are the next steps, do these things. And then we always want to try to also be really good about putting instructions where you need them. So, if you're looking at some of these next steps, you're like, Natasha, I really, you kind of lost me. I have no idea what you're talking about. Let me know. This is just text, and we can easily update this information. Or if we need additional instructions in these areas, just let me know. And those are really simple updates that can be made. The links in the count area is a link to your customer list. So one of the nice things about the dashboard is it provides a filtered list of customers for that particular, whatever the criteria is. So application started, you can click on it, see those applications completed or submitted. I can click on that link, and I have a filtered list of customers for that particular area on the dashboard. Okay. Any questions? One of the things that came up from our last webinar, and I went through and I really looked at some of the information to try to troubleshoot and figure out what was going on, why, because we wanted to make sure that the system was working okay, and was it the assessment area wasn't working, or was there something else going on? And here's what we found out is that in the NOCTI results area, if you see a date, and I think I can't remember if it has score, results, national average, one of these links right here is 0, and that is something that's what I was talking about earlier. I want to talk to Cody and hopefully make him promise that he'll get it finished or fixed this week. Is that for some reason, I'm not sure why the NOCTI score isn't populating. They have the NOCTI scores. It says that they've taken a test, but something's going on with us actually getting that score. So that part does need to be fixed, so I'll let you know whenever that happens, hopefully tomorrow. That's my wish. But the skills and interests in all these other areas are working. But what we found is that, I'm going to move this over, is that some people are using multiple accounts. So it's really important that they only use one account. I know that I believe in Cynthia's case, there were some people that are using multiple accounts, and I need to double check with Cody to see if he has those merged. You're supposed to have those merged this week. And so when that happens is that, they'll have pieces and parts saved with one account and pieces and parts saved with another account, but you only have access to whatever, you see right here, whatever account is associated with their application. And so it's really, really important that they use whatever account their application is associated with. And so to help them with doing that and to making sure that they can, that's what they're doing, is you have access to their username. So whenever you log into your group and you go to your customer list and you select your person, in their profile you have their username, and then you can click on reset password and you can create a new password for them. So if you have your customer, right there at your computer with you, you could, simply go to their name, click reset password, and they could type in their own password, or you could create, a generic password, and then they would, be able to go to their profile and update that information. Okay, Cynthia has a question. Will they be able to get their NACI badge as well? Yes. Yes, they will be able to. And I'm just trying to think about some of your people, if they have different, assessments with multiple accounts. If we run into a situation where they have assessments with multiple accounts, it's really based on their email address. So, if we run into situations where they have multiple accounts and we need to do something so they can access their NACI badge, then just let me know and we'll work through that. But I just can't stress enough, it's really important that they only use one account. Okay, any questions? We are working on the worksite placement. And Erin, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
I might add that a couple people have asked about quarterly performance reports, and right now we're holding off on those. The goal is for the WorkNet to be able to generate the quarterly performance reports, and I think that as we continue to work out all the pieces of the WorkNet, that those quarterly performance reports will be able to pull what we need. So far, we're not quite able to do that. And so for the time being, we're going to hold off on those. My hope is that still what we'll be able to do for that first quarter is kind of go backwards. Once we get everything set up in the system, we can go backwards and we'll still be able to generate a first quarter report. But even if we can't, our first quarter is kind of unique this go around in that we started in November, and so we don't even have a complete first quarter to base off of. So I'm looking more towards the future, and hopefully maybe by the end of our next quarter being a lot closer on those reports. But I just wanted to give our providers a heads up on where we are as far as the performance reports. And we do have fiscal reports that that system is up and running there, but our performance reports are not quite where we're ready for them yet. So Jay asked a question there too, I see. It says, is there a place that we should be uploading our worksite agreements? Not at the moment. There is a place where you can upload. Natasha, there you've got a spot where we can put documents. I don't think we require you to upload your worksite agreements on the WorkNet. We do require that you keep those on file, but I don't think we're going to require those to be on the WorkNet at the moment.
If you wanted to keep them all in one place, you can. You just need to go up to provider info, and then when I click on provider info, I have, I can see everybody, but you'll be able to see your area. You can click on that link, click on upload, and then you can upload a file.
I think it's great if you want to do that. Natasha, is there a way to, how we would store files on our own hard drive? We would organize those into folders and subfolders. Is there a way to organize the files that are uploaded, or are they all uploaded in one location?
Right now, they're uploaded in one location, but I'm wondering if we just need to have kind of like a type or something like that, where you can say.
Yeah, perhaps we could just create a particular subfolder for worksite agreements if we wanted to do that, to allow providers to do that. But we can definitely have that discussion.
Yeah, I mean, we could make it so that it kind of mirrors, whether it's, worksite placement or if it's services, and we could put a preset, listing of, suggested like buckets, I guess you could say, and then also allow them the ability to add like an other.
Yeah, so far we've just required providers to keep those worksite agreements on file, and again, hopefully you are doing that, because that's a key component of the program, is laying out the worksite agreement, and we spell out exactly what has to be in that and notice funding opportunities. So hopefully you are preparing worksite agreements with all of your providers. That's going to be a pretty critical part of the program. And again, it's not so much, the worksite agreements are not so dependent on the Illinois WorkNet in order to get those things finalized or recorded or anything like that. Of course, any documents that you want to record on the WorkNet, that's great. But the main thing is that you have them, and then that you've got them on file for any worksite where you're placing youth, that you've got them on file at your organization. I can't believe it. Today is the last day of January, which, it means we're getting ready to start our 4th month of the program. So we've done November, December, January. Coming into February, at the end of February, we will be halfway through the year already, and I can't believe that it goes that way, but that's just how it goes. So it's good to see that so many of our providers are off to a good start and are making good progress on their serving youth participants.
And Cynthia had a question on our monthly expenditure reports. What's the turnaround time for being reimbursed?
So let me explain that a little bit too. And this again has nothing to do with the WorkNet, but let me try to explain this as best I can. And the truth is there's been some confusion with some of our providers, but also with us here in the DHS office in Springfield. And again, I want to make sure I give you accurate information about the way this works. But if any of you as providers, I know a lot of you probably on the call today and on the webinar maybe are not your fiscal staff or your agency director, and so this may not be of as much interest to you. But in your contracts, in Exhibit C of your contracts, it spells out the payment terms for the program. And what we say is that we will give all providers a 1/8 award upfront payment. And most of our providers should have, all of our providers should have received that upfront payment. So the reason we went with 1/8, and we do this pretty standard for a lot of our contracts, is that we are giving you 1 month to expend with the idea, our understanding was, the idea was that providers would always have 1 month cash on hand. So for example, if you got, let's say, an $80,000 grant, we would give you 1/8 of that. 1 month's worth of funding would be $10,000 up front. And then if you had $5,000 in expenditures your first month, you would pay that out of the 10 that you got, and then we would give you an additional 5 to reimburse, so that would restore you back to $10,000, and you would have $10,000, at the beginning of each month, is the idea, at the beginning of the next month after you turned in your expenditure reports. That's the thought process behind all that. We have found out, though, that that's not exactly how it works, and there is another provision in Exhibit C that says that something of the effect, and I don't have it right in front of me, but that if you are not expending funds at a rate that would justify the payments, then we will stop prospective payments, meaning upfront payments. So going back to my example, so if you had a total grant award of $80,000 and we gave you $10,000, and in your first month you spent $10,000, then we would make another prospective payment to you of basically what you expended to get that back up to about a month cash on hand. However, if we gave you $10,000 up front, and let's say in your first month you only spent $2,000, well, we would not give you that $2,000 because we have already given you 10, and you are not spending at a level that justifies further prospective payments. And so you should still have $8,000 cash on hand, which based on your spending rate would still be enough for 3 or 4 more months. And that's the idea that, so what happens is our payments department has a formula, which I'm trying to get clarification on. We haven't seen written clarification on this formula yet, but our payments department has a formula that they use that calculates your rate of monthly spending, and it determines whether or not you continue to get prospective payments. So if you are spending on average about a month's worth of expenses each month, then you will be reimbursed for those expenses on a prospective basis, meaning you would always be paid ahead a little bit. But if you are not spending an amount that equals or comes close to 1 month's worth of expenditures, then you will not receive additional payments until your total expenditures have exceeded your initial payment or your last prospective payment, which I know is a long-winded and complicated explanation. It would be a lot simpler to just do what I said. We thought the way it worked here at the beginning, which was to give you 1 month up front and to continue to, just to reimburse your expenditures after that. The concern with DHS and the reason that they are telling us that they are not going to do it that way, and that's why they put the language in the contract, is that we try not to get to a point where we get to the end of the year and we have providers with excess funds on hand that then they have to send back. And so we're trying to avoid that situation. So usually near the end of the year, they will stop making prospective payments. They'll look at how far you're paid ahead, and the idea is that the amount that you're paid ahead will hopefully carry you through to the end of the year. But they sometimes will opt to do that earlier if your expenditures do not exceed or come close to your prospective payment. So does that answer your question? Hopefully, do you have any further questions about that? Okay. Jay says yes. So that's good. And I apologize for any confusion that's caused. And the truth is, again, we were a little bit confused about it as well. We've contacted our payments department because people were expecting additional payments. And the response that we got from our payments department was, why are they expecting additional payments? They haven't even spent all of the money that they've already received. They haven't. So that's kind of the answer, is you will need to look at your expenditure reports up to this point and see where those stand in comparison to your initial prospective payment. Okay?
Jay's typing.
Also, by the way, I might point out while Jay's typing there that today is the last day if you have not migrated your CSA account. The CSA system is what DHS uses to approve all of your organization's budgets, as well as to publish your contracts and to publish amendments to your contracts. So the CSA system is changing, whereas providers used to log in one way using their own business email account. Now everyone's going to be required to have an Illinois.gov account in order to access it. It's just a security upgrade, and it'll end up being fine once they get it all done. But in the meantime, if you do not migrate your old account, after today, you will not be able to do so anymore, and you will no longer be able to access the CSA system. So some of you do access the CSA system. Some of you on the call probably don't, but it's important. A lot of our providers have, but a good, decent handful have not. And it's not the end of the world if you haven't. We definitely, what would happen is we would have to re-register you, which we can definitely do. It's just that it's kind of an additional hassle. So if you haven't done that, or if you think your organization's executive director or fiscal staff haven't done that, you might check with them and just remind them. We've sent reminders, and they've heard a lot from us, but you might just give them an additional reminder that, hey, today's the last day to migrate your CSA account.
Looks like Jay's still typing.
So we will plan to have a webinar next Wednesday as well. We continue to work to develop new things. So Jay says, 2 questions. Since we're in the development phase of the program in November and December, our expenditures will be lower. Okay, absolutely, I can see that point. As we now have customers signed up, we're spending more funds. Also, should we not guarantee subsidies 13 weeks before June 30th? So certainly, as you now are kind of ramping up your program, we've recognized that in the first couple of months of the program, we see that expenditures are a little lower, and that is okay, but it is going to throw off that prospective payment of being paid that far ahead. So hopefully that does not put any of our providers in a bind. I really hope not, but there's little I can do about that. Now, as far as should we not guarantee subsidies 13 weeks before June 30th, so I want to make sure I understand your question. So I'm assuming you're saying, if it's, let's say it's June 20th, and you are picking up a new youth participant, and that youth normally would be entitled to 13 weeks of subsidized employment when you got that youth in a job placement. Yes, you are correct that you should not promise anything can be spent after June 30th unless you know for a fact that it can be. So what I'm saying is this particular grant period is like any grant period. We only know for certain that we have an agreement, we have a contract with you that you can expend funds from the CYEP program until June 30th. And we cannot spend DHS CYEP grant funds after June 30th. It's just, it absolutely is not allowable. It's under state law and under the terms of our contract. So what could possibly happen is, and it's what we hope happens with the CYEP program, is that the General Assembly before May 31st, hopefully, but sometime in the spring will approve funding for the CYEP program in FY19, which would start on July 1st, and hopefully, if they do so, the governor includes it in his proposed budget as well, which would then allow us to release either notices of funding opportunity, which would be competitive, or we would release continuation applications, which is what we would expect to do. And we would be able to have an agreement in place with providers to continue providing services as of July 1st. In that case, the subsidized employment that you would be providing after June 30th, you would be paying for it with July 1st dollars with your new award. And that's the thing, is there is just a clear break between the awards. So you can only spend award dollars that you receive for FY18, you can only spend those up to June 30th. If you know that you have more award dollars coming in that you are contracted to spend as of July 1, then absolutely you could commit to that youth that you could that you could provide some continuous subsidized employment up to 13 weeks, and you could kind of carry over from June to July. But until we have that commitment, in writing on a grant agreement, I just cannot tell you that you can spend any funds past June 30th. Hopefully that's clear enough. That is one of those hard breaks that I have absolutely no discretion over, which makes it difficult for a program like ours where we're trying to have some continuity for the sake of the youth that we serve. And I know we've discussed this, that we've had breaks in the program the past couple of years, and that makes it difficult. But I'm going to tell you, at this point in time, I have no idea whether that pattern will continue or not. And it is just up to our policymakers, and until they bring some more stability to the program, then that's the world we're operating in, unfortunately. So hopefully we'll get to a point where we can operate the program in a little bit different way. I know it's especially difficult too, because a lot of the youth that we serve, many of them really start to reap the benefits of the employment placement over the summer, especially if we primarily focus on in-school youth who are now, they're still considered in-school youth, but they're out of school for summer vacation, where they have more opportunity to work. I know a lot of people are saying, boy, we could put a lot more people to work if we could continue through the summer. And I want to say I definitely understand that. I also do want you to keep in mind, though, that, you've heard me say this, I don't know how many times, many, many times, the purpose of the Community Youth Employment Program is long-term, unsubsidized employment. And so even though the summer is a great time to be able to place people to work, I do want to make sure that we're clear on this, that we don't want to place youth into jobs just for the summer. This is not the Summer Youth Employment Program. This is the Community Youth Employment Program, and it's supposed to focus on long-term. So while the youth may be able to work more hours in the summer, which would be a benefit to the youth, we don't want we don't want the job to only plan to be worked in the summer, whereas the youth would start working in June or July and then quit in August when he has to go back to school. That's not the kind of job that we would be looking for to place youth in for this particular grant program, okay? So, Jay, hopefully that answers both your questions there, and and I don't see any other questions being typed, so we can go ahead and wrap up for the day. But I do appreciate your continued work for the Community Youth Employment Program, and I appreciate Natasha's continued work on the Illinois WorkNet. I'll tell you, we've got other data systems that we use for some of our other DHS programs, and this one is by far, in my opinion, the best. And it's not even done yet, but it's certainly got the most potential, and is so far one of the most responsive for our grant program. So I think we're fortunate to have the WorkNet available to us, and look forward to it continuing to get better. So we will plan, and unless you hear otherwise, to see all of you next Wednesday at 1:30. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.
We'll put the poll back up there, too, in case you didn't
right.
get the poll on there, all right? Hey, one last thing, too, as we were wrapping up. One last thing, because I just saw her name as she's typing here. I saw something from Nicole. I wanted to tell you, too, I wanted to introduce you a little bit to Nicole, and she is a DHS employee, and she is going to be providing some additional assistance with the Community Youth Employment Program in the future. So we'll be sure to get Nicole an opportunity to introduce herself maybe on our next call, but definitely wanted to bring her up. So we'll be working with Nicole more in the future, and I will make sure that you get the opportunity to meet with her. All right, have a good afternoon.